Here's why I feel like when we define diversity that way, this is what it does for us. It encompasses this idea of acceptance and respect. And we talked about this last night, and it was part of the conversation that I really enjoyed. Because normally when folks talk about diversity, they talk about the word tolerance. Have y'all heard the word tolerance? Okay, no? Yes? No? Okay, a couple of you. Okay, so when you tolerate somebody, what are you doing? You're putting up with them. Anybody like to just be put up with? Like, okay, that's fine. All right, fine, I guess you can be in the car. Does tolerance symbolize a sense of someone enjoying you being around? No. Does it make you feel like your presence is welcome there when people are just tolerating you? No, not at all. In fact, I don't like to be tolerated. I like people to enjoy being around me, and I hope that each of you would like someone to enjoy having you around, yes, and engaging with you. So when we have this, if we go past the sense of tolerance into this sense of acceptance and respect, what it does is it gives us the opportunity to understand each other and what the other person brings to the table. A lot of times, too, people try to make you feel bad when you point out differences to folks, right? So it would be like me saying, this is what I got a lot when I was in college. Missy, I don't see you as black. Really? Because every time I look in the mirror, I see me as black. But okay. Or that would be like, I don't see that you are tall. I see that I'm tall. I'm actually very, very tall. You know what I mean? So, but I understood what they were trying to say. But when you tell someone that you don't see who they are, then it feels like you're not respecting who they are and their experiences and where they come from. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So I think when we use this broader sense, this definition of diversity, we allow people to be who they are and then don't hold them in a place of judgment. And we acknowledge and celebrate the differences. And so the thing that I think is the crux of this entire thing, and I think this is the part that each of us play in this, is providing an exploration of these differences in a place that's safe and nurturing. Somebody tell me what your body is like when you are afraid. What's your body like? Like, explain to me what happens with your body when you're afraid. Tense, okay. Goosebumps, what else? You feel sick? Terrible, okay. Paranoid? Paranoid. Okay, sweaty, okay. And all those things that you're explaining are about what? They're about you and how you feel. When you're afraid, you are more inward focused than you are anything else, right? You could be aware of your surroundings. If we wanted to have a talk about inclusion and keeping people involved and open and engaged in dialogue, we want them to not be afraid. Because when you're afraid, you're closed off. All you're thinking about is you. You're not open to listening or hearing what anybody else has to say. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Oh, my clicker's not working. Okay. So a lot of times when we talk about diversity just for the sake of having it around. We hear it's a good thing, it should happen, etc. We're not quite sure why. For the next couple minutes, we're just going to talk about what happens when you have diversity around just for the sake of diversity and you're just tolerating people. 3 things I think happen. 1, I think you forget you're talking about people. 1, you forget that there's a purpose for having diversity and that it's personal. It's about you. It's about the person sitting next to you. So let's do this. Have you guys ever seen a class divided? Okay, that's old school, but so good. All right. Everybody who has blue eyes in this room, stand up. If you have blue eyes and you are in this room, stand up. Okay. So, all the non-blue-eyed people in the room, what do we know about blue-eyed people? They're Nazis, okay? What else do we know about blue-eyed people? Whoa, one at a time. What else do we know about them? Huh? Not much. Are blue-eyed people smarter than the rest of the world? No, I don't think that they are. Are blue-eyed people as athletic as the rest of the people in the world? No, I don't think that they are either. Are they horrible at math? I think that they maybe are. Blue-eyed people, is this true about you? No. All right, thank you. I'm sorry, I had to pick on somebody. Y'all can sit down. Okay, so what this thing is, this is an exercise that a teacher did with a room full of third graders. Let's keep that in mind. How old are we when we're in our third grade? Huh? Huh? In third grade? Be special. So you're like what, 7 or 8, maybe 9? Okay, so what this teacher did is one day she like told all the parents and stuff she was going to conduct this sort of simulation with her students. And she divided them up based on the color of their eyes. So it was like you either have blue eyes or then you have everyone else, so brown, hazel, blah, 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 etc. And so for the very first day, she had all the blue-eyed people put a collar on. And when you had the collar on, that meant that you were the special group. So you got to go out and play for recess first, you got in line first for snack, et cetera, all these different things. And then she also gave them more attention in the classroom, and she would just say stuff like, oh, the blue-eyed people, I think that they've done this exercise, like flashcards or whatever, faster than I've ever seen any group before. And she never said anything in contrast about that. She just said that about the blue-eyed people. So what do you think started to happen with the children with blue eyes wearing collars? Were they feeling good about themselves? They got teased? Which ones? They probably got beat up. Where are y'all going to school? Good grief. Probably got beat up. No, they started feeling really good about themselves, and they were thinking very highly of themselves. I'm good. I'm amazing. I could do anything I want to, anything I put my mind to, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So then the next day, they come in, and they think that have y'all ever heard the term rule the roost? That's kind of old, but they think they rule the roost. Okay, but then guess what she does? She switches it up on them. So then she takes the collars off the blue-eyed kids and puts them on everyone else who was not blue-eyed, or was not wearing the collar the day before. And the thing that I think is most amazing when you watch this is that the demeanor of the children who were once wearing the collars and are now are not, their shoulders start to go like this. You know, they start looking around. Why? Why do you think that is? Anybody want to take a guess? They start to not feel good about themselves automatically. Why? Did anybody say anything to them yet? No. But they have a memory, don't they? They have a memory of what happened the day before. And so then, how do you think that the children who didn't have collars but now have collars on, how do you think they were feeling? Like they're about to get somebody, right? It's on, basically. So then they start, saying all these things and all this, and they automatically assume this position of power and prestige and all of that kind of stuff. And they are 8 years old. Nobody had to tell them anything. She didn't, rev them up like I did. I revved you because you guys didn't know what I was going to go, but I revved you up for it. But she didn't have to do that. They did that all on their own, which means it's in us to do that. So we have to be aware that it's in us. Not like, oh, I would never be like that. That's not me. I wouldn't do anything like that. Third graders do it. If a third grader does it, I'm pretty sure that I, as a non-third grader, might do that to someone too. But then all it did was make them feel bad about who they were, something that they could not change about themselves. I mean, you could put color contacts on if you want to, but you still, in reality, don't have that color eye or whatever. So I think sometimes when we talk about diversity and we do it just for the sake of having it around and all that kind of stuff, we lose the essence of what we're trying to create. So I asked about you guys, because I'm in Texas and our breakdown looks a little bit different. So I asked, what does the racial or ethnic or cultural diversity look like at the University of St. Francis? So this here, this is y'all. So can everybody see those numbers? So the highest percentage of students here on this campus are white or Caucasian, 82%. African Americans are 6%, Asian Pacific Islanders about 1%, Native American or first persons are less than 1%. For those of you who self-identify as being like 2 or more races, 1%. Hispanics are about 3%. I don't think that does your school justice when we talk about diversity, do you? I don't think it does at all. But when people talk about diversity, that's all they really care about are those numbers. So I decided to ask some other questions because, I have that really lengthy description of what I believe about diversity. So then I started asking some more questions. I was like, well, where are people from? Well, 89% of you are from Indiana, which I discovered already because I asked the question earlier. And then I found this fascinating fact. I mean, I was fascinated by it. So the highest percentage that you have male, female, the women, I guess they technically rule the roost here, right? 2 to 1. He said that very positively, like he was really excited about that. So over 1,200 of you are females. That's not really kind of even, is it? I mean, I haven't done math in a while, but I don't think that's kind of even. And then I looked too, and I was like, so, like, where do people live when they're on campus? Like, what's the percentage of people, what do they do? So the majority of you don't live on campus. How many of you live in a residence hall that are in this room? Oh, you guys know Lovey, huh? Yeah, I love Lovey. She's awesome. But then here was the other thing that I found fascinating. The average age of the student here is 20 years old. Y'all know that in real life, there are people who are older than 20, right? And there are people who are younger than 20, right? So it's not normal to be in an environment or just, you know, in the same pace for everybody to be around the same age. Do you think that that affects the way that you look at life during this? Oh, I just got really loud. Do you? Like if everybody around you is the same age. Is that what the real world is going to be like? I say real world because, you know, when you're in college, you kind of live on your own. You might live with your parents. You might live in your own place and all that. That is not the way the rest of the world works. So this is a very unique time. That's why I point that out. The time that you are in your next 4 to 6 years, some of you might take 6 years, and that's okay. Just finish. 4 to 6 years, a very special time, what I like to call an incubator of growth, which I think is really, really cool. So there's a purpose to this whole diversity thing. So this is a real breaking of PowerPoint rules. But here's the awesome thing about this. All of these 3 quotes up here are from people who were paid to do research on college students and to tell you what the benefits are of studying in an environment that is diverse. Do you know what these slides say? The first one says that you are better prepared if you are in a diverse environment, learning from people who are not like yourself, people who have come from different backgrounds, have had different experiences and all that, to go out and interact in a world. How many of you heard the term global? We live in a global society. Anybody know what that means? Global? Worldwide. The answer is on the pink sheet you got. No, I'm just kidding. So worldwide, that means global, meaning touching all points of the earth. So your generation, unlike any other generation before its time, has greater access to more points and people in the world than any other time ever on earth. Ever. Which means that if you're studying in an environment that's like that, you are better equipped to go and interact with more people in the world than if you were not. It also says that you get better grades. Why would that be? Why would you get better grades? How do they help you? Somebody said they can help you. How do they help you? Okay, scientific tutors. I like that. So he was saying that if you study with students who perhaps may come from Asia or some parts of Asia, and this is true, statistically do better in areas of science and math than American students do, that they can help you along and do better. Yes? I don't want to misquote what you're saying. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Here's what the research says. The research says when you study with people who think differently than you, solve problems differently than you, it teaches your brain to think in different patterns. So right now, you problem solve, most people problem solve one way. So when you get into a group and study with someone who problem solves differently than you learn that there is more than one way to solve a problem, right? So then when you go into a situation where a problem needs to be solved, you no longer are in this linear way of thinking like it can only be solved this way. Maybe we could try this, maybe we could do that, which you would have learned like doing group projects with someone who problem solved differently than you. So that's what the research says. It also tells you that you are a less fearful person, which I think is kind of cool. And the reason that you're less fearful is because you've had the opportunity to interact with things that are different. And the more times you engage with difference, you as a person psychologically become more adapt to handling situations that are different. Therefore, you engage in situations that most people would stay away from because of fear. That is awesome, I think. So that's one of the purposes as well. You guys go to a Franciscan university. Did you know that? So, yes, I sing it every day. What I love about this is that you, whether you knew it or not, decided to attend an institution that values diversity from its existence. Do y'all know about the emphasized value for the year? Y'all even know what I'm talking about? Y'all have these values, list of values. So diversity is not the one, but that's okay. But it is about serving one another in society and the church. So going out and serving people, I didn't say what kind of, all people. So in essence, it does have to do with diversity. But some of the other values are having respect and reverence for the unique dignity of each person, talking about being a community of learners, fostering peace and justice, and then respecting creation. And since we are all part of creation, that is our way of saying that we should have respect for each other. And it's also embedded in your mission statement. So whether you knew it or not, you chose an amazing place to go to school because they value these things. And then it's personal, as in individually we all have something to learn, individually we all have something to give, and I believe that appreciation of diversity and the skill of acquiring what that means is best developed in community. And right now y'all are in community, y'all are in pockets, right? Y'all have different classes together. This class, bundles, is what I'm saying making sense to you? You're not sitting with your groups? That's okay. So you guys have a glossary of terms, correct? Pink sheet? Everybody got a pink sheet? All right. So on that pink sheet, this in no way is a culmination of every term that you will ever hear in diversity, but it's some ones, or multiculturalism, but it's some good ones that if you hear people talk about them, you will know what that means. The reason I put this up on the slide is because I think this is sort of where the friction hits when people start to talk about diversity and say, well, I'm not a racist. I don't care what people's ethnic background came out. I'm not an ageist. I don't care how old you are. You know, I'm not fill in the blank. Because when we talk about diversity and multiculturalism, there's two levels that we need to talk about. One of them is talking about individual discrimination. That is person to person. And then one is institutional, which means it has to do with the society that you grow up in, the policies that are in place, and all of that kind of stuff. So I know that that's difficult, but that is why I wanted to bring this up. So you personally might not, but you might live in a society that does. And so that's the differentiation between individual discrimination and institutional. And then the next, there's some thick ones like that, and then there are also some ones that are like what's culture, what's global, what's prejudice, that kind of stuff. The one I want to focus in on is dominant group. So how many folks in here are left-handed? Okay, so all of my southpaws, please stand up. Southpaws, left-handed people. I'm a southpaw. All right. Okay, so this is your turn to share. Left-handed people, are you the dominant group? Yes. Yes. Based on the numbers, no, you are not. Okay. So what we're going to figure out is if the world that we live in, the society that we live in, is set up for left-handed people. So I'm going to ask you some questions. When you go into, think about when you were in elementary school and stuff, and you had desks, most of the desks were what kind of desk? Right-handed desk, right? When you buy a notebook to write in, most notebooks are geared toward right-handed people. Scissors, pair of scissors. Left. You have to buy a left-handed pair of scissors. Yes? Anybody experienced any of this? When you shake somebody's hand, what hand do people go in to shake with? Your right hand. So even to say hello to someone or to greet someone is in a right-hand dominated world, correct? All right, thank you. I love left-handed people. I'm left-handed. My grandmother is left-handed. I realize the injustices in the world. But I use that example for this reason. Has anybody in here ever thought about how the world is set up for people who are right-handed? Have you? As a non-left-handed person? Oh, you did? Okay. I never ever thought about it. I mean, it was just, I grew up that way. I eat with my left hand. I do all these things with my left hand. I even situate myself at a table so that it's easier for me to eat without bumping into people. Because, if you're left-handed and you're next to a right-handed person, okay, never mind. So I was like, oh my gosh, I never really thought about that. But then, as I started doing this kind of work, I thought, you know what? We all fall into these things. What we like to call the dominant group and the subordinated group. Not the subordinate group, the subordinated group, meaning they were forced to do other than. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little exercise, and this exercise is for you all. So I want everybody, like if you read up on the screen, the dominant group is the group that is classified as normal or right. They make the rules. They define what true thought is. That group is often unaware of their dominance. They don't even know that they are, and that's one of the benefits of being part of the dominant group. They often know less about the subordinated group, and they're more comfortable when folks who are in the subordinated group share similar behaviors or values as them, and then they hold to this belief of what their culture is, and they very rarely ever examine it, okay? The subordinated group is often seen less than or inferior to. They abide by the rules, or they try to fit in. That big term is assimilation, which is on your paper. They have their truths and experience questioned or invalidated. They know more about the dominant culture than the dominant culture knows about itself. Anybody know why that would be? Because they have to learn it and live within it in order to navigate it. And they often struggle with finding balance between who they are and who they are told they need to be. So this is where you put on your thinking caps. I want each of you to take a few minutes and write down, when you think about who you are as a whole person, where are some of the areas where you fall into the dominant group, and where are some areas of your life where you feel like you fall into the subordinated group. And I will guarantee that every person in here should be able to do this exercise. Okay? So right now, this is your own time. Focus. We'll do share time in a little bit. Focus on that. Find out for yourself where you feel like you're part of the dominant group, and then where you feel like you're part of the subordinated group. Okay, take a couple minutes. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to turn to your neighbor so that you're in groups of 2 or 3, whoever's by you. And then I want you to share with them one of the areas where you think you're part of the subordinated group, and then one of the areas where you feel like you're the subordinated group. But there's more. Wait for it. Explain how you think that your membership in that group affects the way that you either view the world or maneuver through the world. Does that make sense? So whatever your membership is in that group, then explain how you feel like that impacts the way you look at life in the world. Okay, pair up. Talk to each other. So now is the part. Remember I said we had all these rules of engagement, and I was going to ask y'all to talk and to share, and then I need you to take a risk and stuff. This is the portion where that happens, okay? So I'm going to start us off, and so I will kind of model what that looks like for you, so if that makes you feel a little better, that's fine. I have 3. The first one that I chose where I feel like, and I will be completely vulnerable and say, I have felt like I have lived most of my life in the subordinated group. And then I had an aha moment, and I will share with you my aha moment. But my first is, I felt like I was part of the subordinated group, being African American in the United States. And how did that shape my experience of walking through this world? Well, I had lots of encounters with people who judged the inside of who I was and what I was capable of based on what the outside of me looked like. And they did not match up. And that was hard for me. And there were some hateful things that happened and some hurtful things that happened. And that's kind of how that happened for me. So that's one way. The second is as a woman, and I blame my father for this. And he and I have talked about this a lot. So y'all saw my family picture? I have 2 brothers. I don't have any sisters. So I like to say that I grew up in what was called a double standard household. Does anybody know what that is? What is it? Yes. So my father had different rules for my brothers than he had for me. So my brothers got to do stuff that I couldn't do. And when I asked my dad how come I couldn't do it, he told me, because girls don't do that. Really? Oh, okay, I didn't know that. So even my father, probably unknowingly, he knows now, but did that to me. He had a separate standard of rule. So I had a different curfew. And I would like to point out, too, I was much better behaved than my brothers were. My brothers, they did some stuff. That's all I'm going to say. And I was better behaved than them. And I still had the earlier curfew. I couldn't go out on weeknights, only weekends, and all kinds of stuff that I can remember. So that's my other one. Here was my aha moment for me when I realized that I was part of a dominant group. I realized that as a heterosexual, I could love anybody I wanted to. I could marry whoever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. I didn't even have to think about it. I didn't have to question it. If I went to go get married, nobody would blink twice or say anything about that. I had never thought about that before. And now, in our political ethos right now, that's one of the huge things that we talk about. Gay rights, gay marriage rights, yes. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Yes, no? Yes, oh, okay, I hope so. Y'all are voting, right? Okay, I hope you know what we're talking about. But that was the first time for me where I realized, oh my gosh, I'm part of a dominant group, and I never, ever, ever thought about it. Nobody ever told me, you know, who I could love, who I could marry, etc. I'm not making any judgment calls. I'm just saying this was my aha moment. And I thought, that's amazing. Which was a mind shift for me because, like I said before, I felt like I had lived most of my life in this box of thinking that I was not part of the dominant culture on most things. So, who wants to go next? Who wants to share? This is a safe place. Yes, you. Thanks. Okay, so give her a hand. That's awesome. Let's keep it short. That's all I'm going to say. When we share, we're going to keep it short so that everybody has a chance to share.
Subordinate group because I have 2 different sized feet. One is size 7, the other one's size 8. Ooh. And so one shoe's always too tight and the other one's always too loose. And I'm part of the dominant group. Let's see. Well, I have pierced ears, and so I don't have to go out and look for the either metal that's magnetic, and I don't have to look for clamp-ons. Just pretty much everything is for pierced ears. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Who's next? Who's next? Y'all all did it, so I know you all have something to say. Don't be shy. Come on up. You can take it down, and you can face them. Take it down. Turn around.
Okay. Well, that is going to be part of it.
Oh, okay.
I'm part of the dominant group because I am right-handed. I'm part of the subordinate group because I'm short.
Yes, you are. I explain how that affects the way you go through the life.
It literally affects how I go through life. It's sometimes harder. It sometimes takes longer to get to places because I have to take more steps. Mm-hmm. It's hard to reach things like this microphone. It's set for someone like this. It's not set for someone like this.
Very true.
Know?
And do you know that microphones used to be stationary? You couldn't used to move them up and down and all that have that. So.
I've had to deal with microphones that were stationary before. It was really hard.
And maybe like you or like me, I have to buy specially sized pants because my legs are super long.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I've learned to custom tailor my own pants.
She custom tailors her own pants.
I can't drive yet because I'm considered too short.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Who's next? So, and I would encourage you to take risks. If you have ones that you think maybe are a little bit more emotional, you can share those as well. Don't make me call on people. I hate doing that. No. I'm a speaker. I get to call. How about I call on you? How about I call on you? There we go. Come on. Come on, Mr. Michigan. This is a supportive place, right? We're all going to listen respectfully. You don't have to worry about that. Come on. Well, I can't say if they'll judge you or not, but it won't be outward judgment. What a member or your membership in any dominant and subordinate group and how it helps or it navigates affects the way you navigate through the world. Okay, there's one right there. Yep. You're going. Or is there an on-off switch? Okay. Hold on. There you go. You're on.
Okay, I'm subordinated because I'm left-handed.
Okay.
And then I'm dominated because I don't really worry about like awkward things. I don't know. I didn't have any issue with coming up here.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Who's next? Come on up. You don't have to wait for me. The mics are yours. Okay. Let's listen respectfully, please.
I'm dominant because I'm a white male, and
That is true. Don't give him. Listen respectfully. Yes.
and,
Thank you for saying that. Go
and I'm
ahead.
subordinate because I'm almost 20 and I look like I'm 12.
You do look a little young. You look a little young. It's okay. Do people hold it against you that you look young? What's his name? Do people hold it against you that you look young? What's your name? Do people hold it against you that they assume that you're younger than what you are?
I got pulled over once in the costume.
Oh. Ooh. Thank you for sharing. Okay, who's next? Who's gonna be brave? Come on, you can do it. Come on up. Yeah, both of you, come on up. There's 2 mics. One of you take that one, one of you take that one. So kind. Look at that. Hello.
I don't have to take it off, do I?
Not if you don't want
Okay. I'm in the dominant group because I'm right-handed,
to. Okay.
and I'm in the subordinate group because I'm a black female. You know. It's
How
a
does
couple
that-
of us.
How does that affect the way you go through life?
I mean, it's cool. You know, the struggle. I guess.
Struggle?
Yeah, it's a struggle.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm, I guess, what? Subordinated because I'm one of the few people in the world who write backwards. Like,
Explain what you mean by writing backwards.
you know how most people write from top up?
Like,
yeah.
uh-huh.
Like, I write the other opposite way.
oh, you mean when you're forming your letters, instead of
Yeah.
starting at the top, you form all yours from the
Yeah.
bottom?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
I guess I'm dominant because I'm very social.
Yes. And this world is built for extroverts. I don't know if you guys know that, but for social people, most of the things that we do are all social activities. So if you are an introverted person or a more reflective person, this world is not necessarily designed for you. Thank you for sharing. Who's next? Are you ready? I'm ready for you. Ready? Okay. Thank you.
I'm dominant because we dominate sports. And then
Who is we? Who's we? Who's
And
the
then
we?
I'm we
We. Who?
African Americans.
Oh. Okay.
And then I'm subordinate because I'm the only one on campus with a box.
Thank you. Okay. So your supposition is that African Americans dominate all sports? Avi. Oh, I'm sorry. Avi. Okay. Anybody else? One more person. Who's going to be my last person? One more person. Somebody from the back. Oh, yay. Thank you. Come on up. Okay, you guys, this is our last one, so let's listen and give him the same attention and respect he's given us.
I couldn't think. I was trying to think of a dominant thing other than right-handed because a lot of people have said that, but that's the best I can do right now for dominant.
Okay.
But for subordinate, I'm a guy. I'm a slim guy. So shopping, I always have to ask for special assistance shopping because they never have the slim clothes out in the open.
Okay, for males.
Yeah, for males.
Yes, for females, they only have the slim clothes out front. No. Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You guys give yourselves a hand. All right. I appreciate you guys doing that activity with me. The reason I do that is because I think a lot of times, for those of us who feel like we live most of life in our subordinated group, I want you to know that there are groups that you also are in the dominant group. And then for those of you who are in the dominant group where you feel like, I don't really have anything to add to this conversation. There are ways in which you are part of the subordinated group, which means that you have an avenue for understanding. And you might not get it all, but there's an avenue for you to take so that you can allow yourself to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So thanks so much for doing that. I'm still almost done here, which makes me sad because I've enjoyed my time with you guys. So it's like, what do we do now after all these things? Are you stand up ready to go? Oh, yes, you did. You carry peanut butter around. That's so interesting. Okay, so what do I do now? I know all these things. I've heard all these things. Where does the rubber meet the road for me? Well, yesterday I did an activity with the student leaders that I thought was pretty fun, and they seemed to enjoy it, but there's too many of you to do it, so we're going to do it in a different way. But one of the things that everybody can do in order to journey with each other and to be on this journey of diversity is to appreciate the diversity that exists where you are. And so when I talk about diversity, obviously our ethnic and cultural diversity here in Indiana is slightly limited at times, but that does not mean that there is not diversity to learn about and to enjoy where you are. So we're going to go on a little bit of a discovery hunt. So I'm going to call out some things that I think make us different from one another. And then if that category fits you, I want you to stand up so everybody can see that that's you, okay? If you are the oldest sibling in your family, stand up. Oldest sibling in your family. Oldest, numero uno. Awesome. Anybody heard of birth order before? Birth order theory, all that kind of stuff? It says, yes, okay, so like it will say things like firstborn children tend to be more perfectionistic, have harder rules and guidelines established for them by parents and that kind of stuff. Your younger siblings resent you. No, I'm just kidding. That part I just made up. Okay, so that's a different kind of, where you were born and your birth order, it plays a role in who you are and what you do. Anybody here paying for college all by themselves? Like, I mean, you have loans and stuff, but you're paying for it. Awesome. That's cool. That's awesome. That's good to see. Thank you. I think a lot of people take for granted the fact that they just get to go to college and somebody pays for it and they don't have to worry about that. But there are some of you in this room who are not having that experience, and that makes you different, whether it affects the way that your ability to do social things with people because you have to work a job or two, or maybe you work full-time and go to school full-time. That's very difficult. But, I mean, that adds a level of diversity to this class, which I think is beautiful. Anybody in this room homeschooled? Or was homeschooled? Lots of homeschoolers. Stand up, be proud. Awesome. Last night I asked, why do you think that I would put that on a discovery hunt about diversity? Anybody want to take a stab at that? I'll tell you why if you don't want to answer. So in the United States of America, there is a stigma about being homeschooled. So I'm going to ask you this, and you can just shout it out like I did if you were blue-eyed people. What do we know about people who are homeschooled? They are less social. What else? They're smart. What else? They're weird. What else? Huh? They got one-on-one time with the teacher. Are all those things true about all homeschooled people? They are not. But they are not. But that is the dominant perception of what homeschool folks are. I would venture to say I feel like a lot of my colleagues were homeschooled. I feel like they are incredibly social people. I'm probably the most antisocial person in my job. So there you have it. That's why I said that. They also have higher grades coming into college than the average student, SAT and ACT scores. They actually do more interaction outside of the classroom than most students, so there is a lot to be learned there. Anybody in this room bilingual? Speaks, yes, wonderful. Okay, so let's find out what the languages you all speak are. We'll start with you. German, and I'm assuming you speak English because you're speaking to me in English, though. German and English? Spanish? Spanish? I saw some other people. Yes, ma'am? French? Japanese, awesome. Yes? Filipino? And Spanish. That's awesome. Thank you. That's a lot of languages in here. That's great. Anybody in here whose native tongue is not English? Their first language, not English. What's your first language? Spanish. Awesome. Do you know? Okay, thank you. The reason I asked that question is we have international students down in Austin, and I don't know what your international student population is here. Do you know how hard it is to translate, first of all, from one language to another, to process a thought then in that language, to create an answer, and then in your native tongue, and then translate it back out in about 10 seconds? I sometimes can't even think that fast and process just in English, you know? And sometimes we think that people whose first tongue is not English that are here in the United States are slow or ignorant, or, you know, you've heard things that people will say to people who don't speak English as their first language. Those things are not true. And actually, the processes that it takes in order to do that are quite incredible. So I would encourage you all to learn a language outside of English. We are living in an increasingly smaller world where it benefits you to speak more than just English. So let's do two more. Anybody a Democrat? A Democrat? I said a Democrat. So, okay, no, okay. Just stand up. Anybody Democrats? Okay. Anybody know that there are more than just two political parties? Did anybody know that? Does anybody know what the other ones are? Libertarian, Independent, Green. Oh my gosh, somebody go Ron Paul. That man, talk about perseverance. He is, I'm serious. Okay. Okay, this is my favorite one. Anybody have clothes that come from a different country? Anybody have clothes from another country, a different country other than the United States of America? Okay. Technically, every person that has clothing on right now, I would venture to say, should be standing up. Check your tags. Check your tags. You guys can sit down. Most people take for granted when I ask a question like that I'm asking if somebody has like some international garb that they wear. Most clothes made in China, Taiwan, there are some fair trade ones made in the United States and that kind of stuff. Most of your clothes and stuff do not come from the United States of America. So why do I bring that one up? Because we take for granted the folks who are making our clothes, where they're made, how they're made, are people paid fairly for how those things are made? These are all questions and things that I would love for you guys to think about and consider as you continue your schooling and go to make changes in the world. Those are some serious issues that we have to consider. So I also love the exercise too, because I think, like I said, most times when we talk about diversity, we think of it in just this sort of level, and there's so many depths and levels to how we should think about diversity and embrace diversity, and that all of you have it within you. So even if you live in a homogeneous, which means we all look alike, culture, and we all act alike, believe the same things and all that, that's not true. So there's diversity to be found everywhere. And so my challenge is to you is to go out and find that and see how your life can be enriched through that. And so I am going to leave you with some ways that I think that you can go about doing that. And I appreciate your attention, because y'all have been really good. The first is to find out where your diversity resources are on campus. I'm not going to tell you. This is your charge to go and do. Find what student organizations on campus serve cultural or religious groups and like that, and serve other special populations on campus, and engage with those groups. Find out what type of programming goes on in your residence halls, and if any of that supports your efforts to learn more about the people who you live with, where they come from and what their experiences are. What's your own family history? Learn about that so that you can create what I like to call a dialogue of diversity for who you are and yourself. One of the reasons people tend to not engage in conversations about this is because they don't even know where to start from because they've not done that for themselves. So I would venture to say it'd probably be a really interesting and fascinating journey for you to learn about those things. Know if there's any cultural or religious celebrations going on in Fort Wayne. Most of the time you don't have to pay to go to them, and they're quite enjoyable. And then take your friends there so that you can experience a culture or a religion that's different than your own and to see what you can learn from that and how your life can be enriched as a result. And then see if there are any organizations in Fort Wayne that do support like that and see if it's a place where you can volunteer or get involved so that you can learn more about yourself. If you have any questions, this is my contact information. If you're ever in Austin, you can swing by and see me. We'll have fun. I'll take you to a food trailer. I really do appreciate being able to spend some time with you guys. I hope that you'll learn something. Have a great and safe weekend. Oh.